What's going on, Purple People podcast fans? Welcome to the show. We are back. It is May 20th, 2025, and we are here with episode 602. We're going to talk about the NFL schedule release and get into a little bit of rookie minicamp stuff, but I'm just excited to talk about the schedule because I'll be the first to say I don't see a loss, boys. I'm going to lean into it. I hate this so much. I'm going to say it all the time now. Undefeated, never lost. How we doing, fellas?
Was it just me, or was that intro like extra long?
It starts over when we hit go live, but I don't know if I hit go live if it'll automatically play the intro. So that's my thing for now because I haven't learned.
Yeah, StreamYard does that weird thing where it plays the intro for us while it's like getting the stream going, and then when we're live, it like restarts the video. I don't understand it either. I don't know. So I mentioned it to you guys in the chat. I think it's a fun way to start the show out. It does appear, I didn't watch the video, but from what I was looking on the Vikings website, we, like the three of us, have had a big say in this. The NFL and the owners of the league, it appears they're going to be letting NFL players play in the Olympics when we do flag football in them. And like I told you guys in the private chat, boy, oh boy, I cannot wait to see Justin Jefferson going against some poor cornerback who has just been introduced to American football. And he is going to have to cover Justin Jefferson on the same team with like Saquon Barkley and Lamar Jackson and Jamar Chase and just like an all-star lineup of NFL talent out here playing flag football. I think this is going to be the funniest shit imaginable, and I cannot wait.
They should just get that LSU team back together. That's what they should do.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to poop on Kyle's parade here. I listened to Albert Breer today talk about this because they were in Minneapolis today voting on the tush push and then wondering if they're going to say, okay, NFL players can compete for the Olympics in the Olympics.
And the new playoff format, don't forget.
Right. That sounds like it might happen later, but not this year. But Albert predicted this on a few shows and said, listen, I think it will change eventually, but right now there's some friction against it and probably not now. But that's a good point. We can talk about that in just a second. But to Kyle's point, he said, I was in a flag football league in college when I was at Ohio State. And then we went to play the Nike League of people who do this all the time, and they wipe the floor with us. He goes, I don't think the NFL players are going to do as well as you think because it's not the same thing as regular football.
So I disagree 100% with that statement. Fuck the Nike League guys. Like, you're telling me for a minute that Lamar Jackson, who can diagnose an entire NFL defense and can run around NFL defenders, like you couldn't strap a flag on him and give him their dinky ass little playbook, and he
I don't know, when I see like what the basketball team, the Team USA stuff. I mean, the first two Team USAs,
oh my
amazing,
god!
And now the Team USAs are getting competitive games against the international squads, and
basketball is also it's a lot more internationally played than what it was in the 90s. So you've got a lot more like talent. Shit, you get talent from overseas that get drafted in the first round in the NBA draft.
And you see the NFL trying to do that with the expansions to like
right.
Ireland and Brazil and all that. They're reaching out, they're trying to get the game worldwide.
I mean, I could be completely wrong, but I kind of agree with Adam. This is going to be like the first year we got to send Jordan and that dream team to the fucking Olympics. And it's just like, what? Like, there is I don't care, Smith. There is no defensive back in flag football anywhere who can cover Justin Jefferson. That's just not a thing.
It's the thing though. You're thinking about it in the football mindset of tackle football. And tackle football, I don't think there's anyone, but if they just have to get within an arm's reach and get a flag, they don't even have to like technically touch him. It's completely different than that. And that's the part where if that's what people do all the time, it's kind of like if you thought about, because you and I were talking about this the other day, between wrestling and jiu-jitsu, they're very similar.
Yeah.
But if you're going to tell me that a wrestler is going to come in and beat a Brazilian black belt at jiu-jitsu, I doubt it. But I think a Brazilian black belt in jiu-jitsu could wrestle against a wrestler. I think they stand probably a better chance. It's probably in between where we're at. You think it's absolutely not. I think that there will be a shocking closeness in the game. It's probably going to be somewhere in the middle. I thought that was an interesting point, though. He's like, listen, there are people who do this full time, and it's not tackle football. Now, if it were us, the U.S., the Avengers of the world, tackle football, I'd bet my house on it. But something tells me that there's some shifty, stupid league out there that's like, this is kind of annoying. Because I'll tell you what it is. I've seen Tyreek Hill get got at one of his camps by high school kids, and
I've seen
it's one play.
I've seen JJ does the same thing too, like where
It's
he'll go
weird.
out with high school kids, whatever, and every now and then like you said, you'll get that one corner who will get him for a play, and
Right.
it happens. I think it's going to be fun, and I am super
Yes.
excited that they are doing this. You're right; the games will probably be a little closer than what I'm saying right now. It's going to be interesting though, like you said, if we put like Saquon Barkley out there on the field, whatnot. At some point, will instincts kick in, and will he just be like, "I'm going to run over a motherfucker"?
Now, that all said, it would be disappointing if Team USA lost with a stacked roster like that.
Oh God,
That would be terrible.
it would be embarrassing.
And that's the thing that I wonder, because I don't know the rules. I don't watch flag football. I know the concept and the basic idea, but I'm wondering because, like with tackle football in the NFL, you have blockers out in front. Is it the same? Because when I think of flag football, and I just try to just in the initial first thing is like, okay, you need to prepare a team. The first thing I go to is I'm just going to get all the speed that I can because that's all you need. I want Lamar Jackson at quarterback. I need
Oh
Tyreek
yeah,
Hill. I want Jamar Chase. I want Justin Jefferson. And I need all those guys, or whatever the guy was from Kansas City that ran like a 4.2. All the guys that can run super fast. You said Saquon. I love Saquon. I think he's an outstanding human and player. I don't want him on my team. I want the running back that ran a 4.3 at the combine and be like, hey, you're about to work overtime for one game, but I need you to go win us a medal. Like, I wonder
So
if it's
here,
just speed. I don't know the rules, you know?
I don't know. I'll have to look into it a little bit too, and then we can move on. I wanted to talk about the playoffs as well too, the potential rule change on that before we get into the schedule prediction. But I think that like this is not going to be a Pro Bowl situation where like, oh, you can tell when the players are at the Pro Bowl that they're going like half speed. You got to think that if an NFL player signs up to play in the Olympics, like they're within the confines of the rules and how they have to play this game. You got to believe that they're going for it, right?
Yeah, from what I've been reading, Justin Jefferson's just excited about this opportunity, and I
Yeah.
don't see him going there and not giving it his all.
This is the thing that was brought up too, and credit to Albert Breer. I really love his reporting and his style and thing. He goes, listen, this all sounds good in theory until you have someone who's dedicating 3 or 4 months to this and they're not with their team. He's like, that's going to be the issue. Who gets selected? What team is going to be okay with their number one? And what, God forbid, what happens if someone gets hurt? So that's the only negative that you can see from it. But I love, just like
I mean, but when is it a Summer Olympics? I don't.
it would have to be if you're playing football. I would guess.
So I
I'm
mean,
not
it's
sure.
like
I'm
You
not
would
sure.
assume it's not winter.
Right.
yeah. I mean, because if you're not interfering with training camp, I don't
Right.
see what the big deal is.
That's a big, but what I was going to say is I'm just glad that this is getting recognition. Much like, didn't they recently put in some action sports like skateboarding and BMX and stuff like that's going to
Yeah.
be
Yep.
recognized as an Olympic sport? I'm glad that football is, because while American football is not as big as international football, aka soccer, we are putting our thumbprint in other countries, and there are other people. Like, I know firsthand there are kids in Russia who love Justin Jefferson. They saw the gritty and they are obsessed with him. He's on the other side of the world, and that's one player. This brand of sport is out there worldwide. It's never going to be as big as soccer, I don't believe, but it's cool that it's recognized globally, because when you get recognized as an Olympic sport, that's the big leagues. This goes down in world history. So I'm glad that football is finally going to have its mark in the history of world sports. But speaking of, that's good. I'm glad. That's a cool thing. That's years to come. We'll talk about that. They are pushing, it sounds like, towards a ban for the tush push. Philadelphia had a strong case. I believe it was Howie Roseman the GM, and Nick Sirianni were very vocal in saying, okay, you don't want people pushing other offensive players on that side of the ball. And you say it's for safety. Can you show me the data where this hurt someone? And
Well,
it's
let me ask you something like that I don't think is being brought up enough. On the defensive side of the ball, you can't use leverage plays.
correct.
How is a tush push on offense not a leverage play?
It's
It is.
totally a leverage play. You're right,
Yes, it
Adam.
is.
It's
It's
a
the same.
rugby play in football using leverage, like you said, and that's the thing that on the technical side of it, Adam's point is perfect. On the safety side, this is where they're going to get the Eagles and say no. Has there been an injury right now that we can document? No, but all the nerds that do all the analytics and stuff and the health stuff say when an injury happens because of the trajectory of the quarterback, all of these bodies and the way he's going forward, it is going to be catastrophic. And if they can label something as quarterbacks, injury, and catastrophic, you can bet your ass the league and the commissioner are going to be like, get it out. We can't afford this. We need eyeballs. Eyeballs create ratings, which create revenue. So that's the word being reported by all the major guys today is the commissioner wants it to happen. It looks like it's going to go in favor of that. And it happened pretty quickly. But I personally I was kind of baffled it happened so fast because they talked about it a little in March. But when they said, hey, let's revisit it, that's when you know it was serious to say, because what Albert said earlier was there's a lot of discussions the public never hears about because when they bring something up, like 5 people vote on it and they're like, yeah, we're going to scrap that. We're not talking about that anymore. So it sounds like this is going to be a thing, and I'm assuming it'll be for the upcoming season. No more tush push.
I agree with Adam. It's a you can't do that style of play based on leverage, I think was the word you used for it, on defense. So if you're just simply trying to make it fair for both sides of the football, like you should ban the play. You should ban the tush push.
Yeah, because the
Or
defense can't take their big men and have people push their big guys to try to match that kind of output. They can't do it. It's against the
or
rules.
or are you going to allow them to do that on defense? Well,
Right.
you're probably not going to loosen the rules on defense at all and do that.
Which
So I
means, in turn, Kyle, we have to let special teams do it, which means they can jump over the line and take people's head off when we try field goals and extra points. And I am all for it. Let's turn that around.
yeah.
Hell
So
yeah.
I do think that they should probably ban the play. I agree with you, Smith. I don't like the way that they have to frame everything about safety.
Mhm.
We like you don't have to say that. Like everyone kind of knows that seems like a play that could potentially get it, but like don't make that the focal point. Make it that you're trying to make the game fair for offense and defense. And then also, I think someone just kind of needs to come right out and say it. It's as a fan, it's not a fun play to watch on the field. It's just not.
It's fun if you're a Philadelphia fan, and I got to give them credit too. Like all my hatred aside for that fan base and their heartbreaking stuff to us in 2017, and just how shitty they've been over the years as a fan base to endure. They are the world champions. Their quarterback is the
Right.
Super Bowl MVP. They earned that trophy, and they dog walked pretty much everyone through the playoffs. They are the best team in football, and they have perfected a particular play, and they should get all of their flowers for that. But
I
if we're gonna get down to brass tacks, summarizing what you guys said, if they're not allowing this kind of leverage on one side or the other 2 sides of the ball, why is it fair to do it on that side? And I understand Eagles fans will be like, well, you're just mad because you can't stop it. Yeah, but you're also at a major advantage doing it like that. And I bet you if we started right now in the off season of 2025 and every team in the NFL practiced the tush push legitimately this
With
season
Brandon Powell.
and yeah, right. With that's so funny you brought that up, Adam. With every team this offseason and just next offseason, by the start of next season, I bet you there would be 2 or 3 teams that are pretty good at it. Oh, we only saw one other team really try it outside of the Eagles, and I thought it would work because they had a big ass quarterback doing it in Buffalo. It didn't work,
yeah.
but that's just because this is a
And Minnesota
relatively new
tried it with
thing.
their center that
Is
is
no longer
undersized and gets
that
pushed
it's no
around, and it
longer
did
on
not
the
work out well.
team.
Right. I mean, you've seen a couple other teams around the league kind of try to throw it in there. I believe the Titans tried to run it a
Right.
couple times, and it just didn't really catch on. It reminded me a little bit of when the Wildcat was super popular, and
Oh yeah,
you had one or two teams that like had a legitimate Wildcat package, and then you had the Vikings who had no reason to be running it, and they had no success with it, and just continually kept trying it. Uh, the one thing that I don't like about banning this play is that I don't like banning creativity.
right.
I'll give the Eagles all the credit in the world
Mhm.
for like looking at the rule book and coming up with a play that they thought would work. They got really damn good at it, and it did work the way they thought it would. And
Mhm.
I don't like the idea that like the league is just going to sit back and go, you know what? We don't want that in our game. We're going to ban it. Stick to like traditional football, because I mean you do want the game to continue to evolve and continue to grow. And this is coming from someone who, like I said, I think the play is kind of a boring, kind of a piss break play. I'm not really that big of a fan of it. So I am torn. I do see both sides of it.
Didn't it happen too in that Commanders game, the NFC Championship game, where they jumped off twice and the refs were like, if you do it again, we're going to give them the touchdown? Like, that's the part of it where that's the most vehemently disgraceful part of that play is we're just going to give them points if you keep trying to do that. It's like, they're pushing people through the line. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Right.
That's the first thing that came to mind when I'm in favor of it. But the other part of it is it is pretty damn like remove your emotion aside or remove my bias aside from hating this team and that fan base. What's it like to have a play that is surefire that works every damn time? What's that like?
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy, you know? Like nothing is automatic in the league, even with Brady and all the greats we've seen at every position. But that's a pretty much guaranteed play. So it's interesting to see that they're going to push to get that out. No pun intended. But that sounds like the rule. And next time we have a show, if it becomes an official rule and it's officially said down, hey, this is banned, we'll bring it up and we'll solidify that. But it sounds like it's in favor of that coming up. What's up, Wes? How you doing? What did you say? What's up, guys? Hoping the Timberwolves can win the NBA championship this year. Maybe it'll lift the curse. Vikings finally win a Super Bowl. We can hope, right? Here's the thing, Wes. They got to get through Oklahoma City first, and that's going to be tough. But I will say, as a Vikings fan who just glances at the Wolves, because I am bound to the depths of hell being a Charlotte Hornets fan, and they are awful. Anthony Edwards, if he wins a championship, he might be the face of the NBA after that. He has that kind of like power and charisma already.
Mhm.
And it's pretty crazy that in the last 2 years, he's been sending a lot of people that are very good home packing. I know it's not him specifically. Nas Reed's great. Who's on the team? Rudy Gobert's on the team, right?
Julius Randle's playing well down the stretch.
Everybody's elevated and they're right back where they were last year in the conference finals. So I personally I have no skin in the game because I have to be loyal to my home teams. But if I had to choose a second team, it's the T-Wolves all the way, and I'm right there with you. I want to see the Knicks and the Timberwolves. I think that would be the best matchup for the NBA, and I would
It's
watch
kind of
every game.
hilarious talking about the Minnesota sports curse because it only affects the men. It's odd. Like the women's basketball team has won multiple championships. The women's hockey team is in the championship at this moment.
Incredible.
And yet, Minnesota men's sports, what are we doing?
Well, we're doing something right. The Wolves are out there doing something right. Like they're on a hell of a run right now. It's a lot of fun to watch. It's good for Minnesota sports. I do worry that the curse is going to move to the Vikings now because there's no possible way we can have two good.
Oh no! All the curses went right to the Minnesota Twins. They are bad.
Well, that's baseball, and I don't like baseball, so they can be terrible. I'm fine with that.
That's so funny. We'll talk about this too before we get into the record stuff. Two things I want to talk about. One, we talked about this briefly. I am adamantly for this about playoff seeding changes. I think they should change to where it's based on your record as the number of seeding that you get, because the whole point of any season in football is to win as many games as possible. And you'll have the old heads, they'll say, you need to win your division. Cool. Well, if you're the AFC South or the NFC South and you just have dumpster fires forever, you have an easier path to the playoffs. Well, your division sucks and it sucks forever. We have 3 playoff teams in the NFC North, and you guys have the Jaguars. I don't care.
But I get
Okay?
wanting the division winners to mean something and to put some emphasis there and make those,
Right.
8 games or whatever it is each year seem special.
And you know what, Adam? I said this on the other show, and I'll repeat it again. If you win your division, I think you get a spot in the playoffs. But my caveat is we changed the seeding to wins and numbers because because you win a division, if you're 10-7 and the team you're hosting is 12-5, they shouldn't be the visiting team. They won more football games than you. You shouldn't get to host a game. And I heard this on whatever show I was listening to the other day. Somebody said, well, if you're an 8-9 team like before, like the Panthers, you're going to get dog walked anyways. Okay, so why do you get to host? That my point still stands that the team that won the most games that's an incentive to win more games. It should be an incentive to make everybody want to win. You can't tank in the NFL anyways, but that's my kind of rock and hill I'm going to die on.
And one of the best arguments I heard about this is that, it'll stop teams from resting players at the end of the year. Sitting out your star players that are supposed to be there and put people's butts in the seats and get people on TV. Mm-hmm. I mean, when you have won your division, you still have things to play for now.
Yeah.
And it happened last year. Now, this is not to degrade your point, Adam, but it happened last year. The Rams, they could have had the 3 seed had they won out, but they knew they locked up the NFC West. They rested everyone in Week 18. And you see what happened in the playoffs. I think just schematically and personnel-wise, they probably had an advantage pretty much everywhere. I think Sean McVay's kind of got Kevin O'Connell's number.
Yeah.
Because, he was his protege for a little while. The Vikings' interior offensive line last year was the Achilles heel. But they did rest everyone that week, and they came out firing on all cylinders. And famously, if you remember the playoffs, the Rams are the only team that gave the Eagles any kind of trouble. So I get why it would be frustrating for some people to say, like, the division means something. But I'll tell you how much the division doesn't mean anything. When your team wins the division, do you run around showing everyone for the rest of the offseason your NFC North division hat? No, half the players don't even wear that. Like, cool, we don't give a shit about that. If you win your conference, I'd wear your conference championship gear. Obviously, if you win the Super Bowl, that's Mecca. That's where you want to be. But the division is like the best way I can describe, like locally for me, like when I was in high school, when you win your county, like I wrestled, I won the county championship. That's like the local 6 schools that are around within a 12-mile radius. That doesn't mean shit. Yeah, you get a gold medal for it.
I mean, technically, you should have a 25% chance at best at winning your division.
Steiner math.
See, Adam, this is why I love you. Coming in with zingers, and that's a great point to make. Hey, you're already a quarter of the way there, so that's funny. That's really funny.
And I think that, like, there are ways that you can still make divisional games feel bigger and more important, and this is just the marketing in me as we were sitting here just like spinballing, thinking ideas up right now. It's as simple as you treat them like your rivalry games where you're going to do throwback uniforms. So hey, it's the Vikings, it's the Packers, we're wearing throwbacks. We're going to do a big video package beforehand, the history of both teams. You pick another game. It's your Ring of Honor game for the Minnesota Vikings. And here are the legends. Here's Randy Moss, and here's Chris Carter, and here's some other guys. And you bring them out, and like you do the whole pomp and circumstance thing, where like these are your divisional games. It's your history. You can still make them feel big and important. And then you can do like what Smith was talking about. You can actually do the playoffs based on your win, your record. Your seeding is based on that.
Well, I know you guys have noticed the last 4 or 5 years that the NFL has really stacked those division games at the end of the schedule to try to make them more meaningful and really just get what they can out of those contests. And if you kind of move away from the seeding format and you put it on records, those games that could be meaningless down the stretch finally have some meaning.
Yeah. And like I said, I think the initial reaction of negativity is always coming from a place of like, I don't like change.
Change.
I don't
I
like
don't like
change
to.
at
Yeah.
all.
Yep.
Okay, I still want division winners to. That should get you an automatic bid. That's the way it
Right.
should be. I think, and I said this on this show. If I was king for a day, they said, Kyle, you're going to be the head coach of the Vikings. What is going to be your mantra? What are you going to tell the team? Win all of your home games and try your damnedest to win every division game. If you win every division game and you win all your home games, guess what? I know you've won 75% of your schedule and you're going to the playoffs regardless. That's where we start. We win, we defend our home turf, and we own this division.
Oh
That would
no.
be that would be my mantra if I was a coach. I
I
still
know how you
don't.
guys feel about these home away things because I remember us posting in our chat about away games and whether or not neutral site games are away games.
Yeah, I thought that was really funny. I like the wording on that. I was more irritated with the wording, but that's Mike Florio, and he's stupid. So
But yeah,
whatever.
Minnesota has 7 home games, 6 road games, and then 2 neutral location games, and I kind of like that.
I do too.
I don't hate it.
I also like, and we're going to talk about it now. It's a great segue, Adam. That they're going to play back-to-back international games because all they've got to do is fly and ship stuff over. They don't have to come back home and practice for a week and have jet lag and go back. Ireland and the UK are right there near each other, so they just need to stay, have a competitive advantage in the travel against the Browns that following week. And let's dive right into it. We're going to predict the schedule, but Adam said it. We've got some international neutral site games. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Adam, I feel like you would know this. It rotates every year. One year, the AFC will have the more number of home games, and then the NFC, right? That's how they rotate it every year, right? Because now that we have not an even number of away and home games, you have one extra. So it's
I'm
one
not sure
conference.
how it rotates, but I know it does.
I thought that's what it was. One year the AFC has more home games, and then the next year they just flip flop. That's what makes sense in my head. Maybe I'm wrong, but that I feel like I've
But
seen
another
that
interesting
somewhere.
thing to note is that out of the 3 preseason games, 2 are in Minnesota and 1 is on the road. So if you look at the entire scope of all the games, including exhibition, the home and road games equal out.
Nice.
And another nice little nugget about that is for that second preseason game against the New England Patriots, I guess they're going to have some joint practices with the Patriots,
They're
and
going to host.
with Stephon Diggs in town, that'd be kind of neat.
They're going
Yeah.
to host the Patriots. Mike Vrabel and Kevin O'Connell have history doing this when he was with the Titans, and I get to see my boy wonder. I love you so much. I wish you were our quarterback, Drake May. I love you so much, man. Yeah, that's going to be cool. I'm glad you brought that up, Adam. I was thinking
I've
about that
always
now.
heard that these joint practices are really beneficial for both teams, and that in a way they're actually more beneficial than a preseason game, just based on the amount of work that they're able to get done. So that's cool. I like it.
I don't know of any particular coach in the past or currently coaching right now that I like absolutely despise, unless it's Sean Payton.
Sean Payton.
But it's I respect the hell out of Mike Vrabel, and I know him
Yeah.
coming from the Belichick tree and all that. I know when the Patriots come to town, there's not going to be any of that bullshit where people are going to be starting fights or anything like that. Like Kevin O'Connell's not going to have that from his guys, but I like a top tier organization and classy organization where it's going to be like, no, we're not here to fuck around. We're here to play football. If you're going to do some sideshow games and act like a clown, like we don't need you. So I really
No, but
appreciate
I
that.
think there will be some heated scrimmages between Brian Flores' defense and Mike Vrabel. Like that's two real prideful big dudes out there that are going to want to
Correct.
get the best of one another. Like
Correct.
actually, if I could attend any portion of training camp, like give me tickets to those. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
That's a good point, Kyle.
Yeah.
So I got to ask you guys about week 1 because the information that came out about Caleb Williams has that matchup against the Bears really adding some fuel to that fire.
You know, the timing of it, Adam, is really just bizarre. I know it's coming out in a book, but feels like we should have heard this immediately or never at all because it's really odd timing to have over a year later after it happened. He's already got a
Yeah.
season under his belt. He's fully embraced the city, and I feel like it's kind of a detriment to him
And did
because
you see those reports about Caleb Williams having to watch his own film and figure out what he was watching?
that's a damning statement for
Is
Matt
there
Eberflus.
something that like got lost in translation on that? Like, surely they can't just not give him any direction
Right?
on watching film or what to look for. Like, there has to be something that was not said in that quote because it looks like absolutely terrible the way that came out.
It
I
really
don't think
does.
it's every single game the whole season he didn't have it. I think it was he had to figure some of that stuff out on his own, and there were times where he wasn't given guidance. And it's that thing, it's that Mike Zimmer, Kirk Cousins thing of there's no wonder you guys never won anything of merit. And the guys like Brady and Belichick are literally having lunch and dinner saying, "Hey, what do you see? This is Ed Reed. He will kill you. How can you beat him?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I see this. What do you think about this?" Like they're going over every little tendency. You're like, "Oh, well, I guess that's why they won 6 fucking Super Bowls together." Like, how do you let that happen? Especially like this is my I promise I'll shut up, but if you heard this in 1981, I'd be like, yeah, it's on par for the NFL. It's stupid. They didn't have that going on. This is 2024.
Tom Br-
What?
Tom Brady used to watch upwards of 40 hours of game tape every single week for every opponent.
And he would sit down and watch it with his head coach and offensive coordinator.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
why I love like they had so much friction. They were headbutting and hated each other because they were in a marriage. They were in a professional marriage of I am always around this person. They get on my fucking nerves. But when you go to the mountaintop that many times, it's kind of like, hey, we might get on each other's nerves, but it's freaking working here.
So
And that's the little nuance of it.
Chicago is where quarterbacks go to die. How do you
And
recover?
and he had every right to say I don't want to go there. I just think the funny thing that you brought up, and it's in this article, Adam, is or the
Why
book
now?
rather, is well, not only why now is like he mentioned Kevin O'Connell specifically, and that's the what could have been because I'm not going to shit on Caleb Williams. I know coming out of college, everybody's comp for him was Aaron Rodgers. Would I like to have young Aaron Rodgers on our team? Fuck yeah, I would. But Chicago was never going to trade that. Ryan Poles is quoted saying, "We are taking you no matter what." And what I want after all this has came out, all these quotes and all that stuff, I want to know what happened in that room when Caleb Williams sat down, and I want to know what Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus said to Caleb Williams to make him say, "All right, I'm good with being a Bear," because they had to promise him to move mountains and bring heaven on earth. Because just to say, like, I'm not fucking going here. You guys, your history sucks, and I don't want to be here. Quarterbacks go to die, like Adam said. And then
all this stuff, like before the draft that we were talking about, like Caleb Williams wants stock options. Caleb Williams wants partial share of ownership. That all makes a little bit more sense when this came out.
Also, I want to defend him as much shit as we give him. You can make fun of him for painting his nails and say he's a little zesty, and this is a new generation of kids that are maybe you call them entitled or whatever. I want you to think about this and remove your bias or your hate or whatever. This is the very first generation and class of quarterbacks that made NIL money. They literally have fuck you money to say, I've got $6 million in my bank account already. I don't need you. I'm set for life now. What can you do for me? And this is the new way forward. You don't have to like it. You can tell me this is ruining the NFL and they should. It's fine. You can believe that, but going forward, that's how it's going to be. So you can either get with it or you can be the old guy yelling at the clouds in the background. But he is the first class of that generation of, well, I have FU money, so things are going to change in the process of recruits and all that. I really believe. I don't think he's going to come out next year, Arch Manning, but maybe 2027. He might be falling in line like his uncle and being like, "I'm not going to play for y'all. Are you kidding me?"
Yeah. Real quick, and then we'll do our schedule breakdown here. There's a point I wanted to make about Kevin O'Connell that sometimes I think we forget collectively as Vikings fans because we haven't had this, I don't think, ever in my lifetime. Now, I'm not saying that we haven't had other coaches that players wanted to play for. Like, of course, there were players who wanted to play for Mike Tice and Leslie Frazier and all the coaches that we've had. But Kevin O'Connell is he is so damn good at what he does. And players recognize that around the league. Young players recognize that when they're looking around going, what situation would I want to be in that I would like, that I could succeed in the most? Kevin O'Connell is someone that they're looking towards. And we haven't had that really as a head coach, like truly ever. That it's like, oh, we have the young head coach that players like truly gravitate towards. Sort of new for us. We're sort of not used to having that around here too. So I think that when you hear that he wanted to play for Kevin O'Connell, what's wrong with Chicago? Not necessarily anything was wrong with Chicago.
Right.
It's just that Kevin O'Connell is one of the top 2 or 3 quarterback whisperers in the NFL right now.
And apparently that meeting between Williams and O'Connell was just so easy and went so well.
Yep.
I think it's a testament too, Kyle, to your point, just to echo it a little bit. We're in an information age where so much information comes out. We hear about how tumultuous it was at the end of Mike Zimmer's tenure and how basically he was like on a warpath that last week of like, I know I'm getting fired anyways. Fuck it. I'm going to say what I want. And then you come out. I haven't heard one negative story about Kevin O'Connell, and he's done 3 seasons here. He's going into year 4. I really, truly hope he has like a Mike Tomlin-esque run with this team. Think about how long Mike Tomlin's been with the Steelers, 20 years this year. I really hope that's what Kevin O'Connell has. And I really, really hope that this ownership gives him all of the leverage and all of the leash possible, because I really, if there's ever a time outside of Bud Grant, or you could say Denny Green, if there's ever a time outside of Bud Grant that you think this team could go all the way, and it's got to start with the coach, this is the guy. So, I mean, dude, he's our age. He's like 38. Like,
I know.
It's funny because, when we're talking about coaches, we got like, you remember how like Mike Zimmer came in and shut down gambling and all that in the locker room, and then like they had that weird teddy bear massacre in the locker room. Do you remember that?
Oh, I forgot about that, but yeah.
Wild stuff.
Yeah, you just don't have to worry about
Wasn't there something with a t-shirt at one point too?
Oh, the Beat Green Bay shirts?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We should study that. There should be a study on the Zimmer era and how wonky it was.
There was some wild stuff going on.
He almost lost his eyeball at one point. Like, just a crazy, crazy time. All right, we're opening up week 1, 2025 season in Chicago, Monday Night Football. I don't like waiting that long, but I do like that they have they've got a semi-favorable matchup. I will give the Bears all their flowers. They are trying. They are making the attempt, and that's half the battle, to make this team good for this kid. They signed Joe Thuney and a bunch of big offensive linemen. They're getting weapons. I think this whole division is raising their floor as far as the talent and expectations, and I don't think any one of these division teams are going to be an easy out. But it's week 1, and he's got to play Brian Flores' defense, being Caleb Williams. And I just hope that J.J. McCarthy is ready to go and everything's smooth sailing. I like the Vikings' chances, but I don't like starting out Monday
until
Night
the
Football.
end of the week.
I hate it. I hate it so much.
I got to watch every other team play before I can watch Minnesota play.
It's annoying.
So before I do my wins and losses, I want to tell you guys my mindset on where I was when I was going through and writing each of these down. So I am operating underneath the assumption that J.J. McCarthy is going to have some growing pains early in the season. I think that that's fair for any rookie coming into the NFL. So when I go wins and losses, I'm looking at it a little bit through that lens. Week 1 at Chicago, I think it's going to be a loss for the Minnesota Vikings. I think McCarthy is going to be a little jittery out there on the road week 1. I think it'll be close, but I don't think they pull out a win.
I love getting this game in Chicago out of the way really early. I would rather this game be here at this time in week 1 than later in the season when the weather is absolutely terrible. That said, I still don't have faith that Chicago did enough to bolster their offensive line. I know that they got a left tackle in the 3rd round or something like that, but I don't know if he can hold up against Grenard. I don't know. So I'd take Minnesota on this one.
totally not knowing any injuries and all that stuff, they did get Ben Johnson from the Lions as well, and he waited. He purposely waited a year so he could get a job like this. Um,
He
I
waited to go to Chicago.
he could have left. I mean, technically, he could have left the year before because they did go to the NFC Championship game, but he chose to stay an extra year. So,
But the one thing like coaches got to do is you got to wait for the right opportunity. I mean, if a
100%.
good coach goes to a bad situation, they can derail their whole college or their whole coaching career really quickly.
Yeah, I like that for Chicago. They got an offensive guy, and it sounds like this whole division is going to be tough, man, for a long
I
time.
just don't
But
know if Caleb fits in with what Ben Johnson did in Detroit. I mean, Ben Johnson's going to have to cater that offense completely differently. And
yeah,
I don't know if that's going to be something he can really do.
I'll say this: I like the Vikings. I do. I agree with you, Adam. I like them being in Chicago when it's not as cold. For whatever reason, this is what's burned into my retinas as a Viking fan. It was the 2016 year or 2017 year. No, 2016. I had just moved to Texas, and I watched Jay Cutler. It looked like he was Tom Brady in this game against the Vikings. It pissed me off so bad because I knew how average Jay Cutler was, but when he played the Vikings, he looked like old Dan Marino. And it was in Chicago, and the Vikings just looked totally inept. And I hope that's not what happens. I will say I think they will split with the Bears, but I like our chances at home better than away. I don't like starting on the road. So I'll give the Vikings a loss for this one as well. Growing pains, like you said. But I don't think they're going to get waxed. I think this is going to be a very competitive team. It's just going to be a little tougher now because you've got a young quarterback starting, but
I just
I
really
like it.
don't like Caleb Williams' deep ball. I don't like it.
Yeah, that and that, like you said, they addressed the line, but man, he took a lot of sacks last year. He held on to the ball way too long, so
Oh, yeah.
hopefully he continues that. All right, week 2, home opener versus Atlanta. This is a rematch of the national title game between the two proposed starting quarterbacks here. Michael Penix Jr. was at Washington when
Will
JJ.
Kirk Cousins be there?
I don't think he will. If Aaron Rodgers doesn't sign with Pittsburgh, there's no chance they're going to roll out with Mason Rudolph for the year. They're going to have to call Atlanta and be like, "What do you want? Give us the old man." Kirk's going to find his way somewhere else. I thought it was going to be to Cleveland because he has a Kevin Stefanski tie there, but they did that weird quarterback thing there, and it seems like he should be a Steeler.
But you're right, that national championship rematch is going to be something to watch because both those guys are really talented quarterbacks.
I think Atlanta will be improved as well. I still am scratching my head at that trade up into the first round for a Tennessee edge rusher. They could have gotten in the second round. It's really, honestly, I thought it was a very stupid thing to do. That's a position of need, but I think they way overdrafted that kid. But I do like
from
their
what I
roster.
understand, the owner was putting a lot of pressure on the GM to improve a spot that he missed last season when they went up for their quarterback. So this was kind of just like a thing to make the owner happy, I guess.
That sucks. That sucks when you got to do that. I like the Vikings' chances at home against Atlanta. Again, a rookie quarterback. But yeah, I'm
Not a rookie no mo.
yeah, not a rookie anymore technically from the same class, even though he got some starts last year. But first full year starting, I like this defense against Michael Penix. It'll be interesting. We'll see. This could be the Kirk revenge game. Who knows? I don't know what's going to happen. I'm more interested to see where Kirk Cousins lands up because I think it's absolutely asinine to pay a guy that much money to be your backup. It's stupid to me.
Yeah, the Falcons are investing a lot in players that I don't know if they're going to get the kind of return on investment that they want early on in the season. I think some of these guys are going to take some time, find their role in the game, find their spot on the team, and get things figured out. I don't think Atlanta's going to have that down by week 2. So I got Minnesota winning their home opener.
Yeah, like I said, I got the Vikings taking a loss week 1. I think the week 2 home opener against Atlanta is a win for this team. I think that they will bounce back. It's going to be a close loss probably against the Bears. So they're going to come out and I think they'll look sharp at home. Truth be told, I really don't believe in anything the Falcons are doing at the moment. I really don't know. I mean, They got that tight end that how many years are we talking about that tight end being
Hey, this is the year Kyle Pitts is going to have his big breakout.
Yeah, this is the year. Well, that's never happened. That's never going to happen.
Don't hold your breath on that.
I like Michael Penix, but I mean, I haven't seen enough from him. Home opener, I think the Vikings will get a W on that one.
All right. This is an interesting one. If Trey Hendrickson is on the Bengals, they have a much greater shot. I don't know what the hell the Cincinnati Bengals are doing. Pay the man. It's one thing if you tell a guy, all right, you had a good year last year, but can you prove it? Well, that's exactly what he did. In 2023, he led the league in sacks. And what did he do in 2024? The same damn thing again. Cincinnati, you guys are stupid. You're cheap. Pay your players, all of them, or
Cincinnati
trade
is
them.
not cheap. Not cheap.
No?
I just don't think they can find a way to get money. I mean, with what they're paying Chase and Higgins and Burrow and all these other players that are making boatloads of money, I just don't know how much more money they have to throw around.
Well,
yeah.
Let me reference this, Adam. I'm taking a shot at their shitty facilities. That's an underground dig. At that they have to walk across the street from their facility to go to the practice field. Like, what are you doing? I think they have to go under a bridge or over tracks or something like that. Like, that's what I'm referring to. But it's a cheap move of them to not grant him a trade that he's asked for, because he put it perfectly, man, as subtly as you can, and he's a hold in at camp. Hey, I'm not the one dictating the market for my position group. That's not on me. All I'm telling you is, for 2 years in a row, I've led the league in sacks. You should pay me that because I'm playing above what my contract is. I think that's shitty. They should pay him or trade him. If you can't pay him, trade him, get some compensation.
And the fan response and stuff like that is always so weird. It's like, play out your contract. You don't need more money. Players are overpaid anyway. And we always come back to this. If you're not paying the players more, the owners are just going to pocket more cash.
Not only that, if that were you at your job and you were outperforming everyone around you, would you be like, I make enough money, it's fine? No, I understand that these guys make generational money, but that's where you have to go to basic economics and understand this league makes hundreds of billions of dollars. So the players are going to make hundreds of, say it with me, millions. Like, it's not hard to figure out. People are like, you made enough money, so they should just play for free. They should just get concussions for free now. Like, I'll never understand. I used to be that guy to be like, can't believe you pay a guy to throw a ball and our firefighters don't get that. That's not how it works, man. I wish that it was.
Two completely different things.
Yes.
So we're talking home against Cincinnati. Guys, I think this is going to be a heartbreaking loss for the Minnesota Vikings. I still think that we're early season McCarthy. I don't know what we're going to get.
Well, here's the situation on this one. My sister is trying to plan to go to a concert that weekend in Minneapolis, and she said, oh, maybe we can go and catch a football game. I don't know if I want to go see Minnesota get beat by the Bengals because I don't like that matchup.
I think it's a bit of a coin flip. Right now, I am leaning towards it being, I think a loss for the Vikings.
I think they're going to win. I'll tell you why. Cincinnati, historically, with Joe Burrow at quarterback, starts the season very, very slow. And if you're going into the season now, it's the middle towards the end of May, and your star pass rusher is bitching about getting paid and being a hold-in at camp. I love everything about that. Keep it going. Keep your best defensive player off the field, and good luck. You can have all the points in the world on offense, but if you can't stop the other team, like, hey, and you know what? I like our defense. I like our coach. I like most of our personnel. I'll take that chance.
I don't think McCarthy can keep pace with Burrow. I don't think so.
It's a coin flip, though, man. It's a coin flip. You almost convinced me to change it to a W right here. Like, it could go either way, because this is, I think, going to be a very good defense that Brian Flores is going to coach out there, and then it turns into one of those things where can you do enough on offense to win a football game?
Yep.
Yeah, because they got a lot of fucking talent on offense out there too. It's a coin flip, man.
You just have to trust that they know what they're doing with McCarthy, because we all said last year maybe it's an 8 to 10 win team. Sam Darnold, if he unlocks it, they win 14 games. We didn't see that coming. If McCarthy can just be as advertised, they'll be fine. I'm with you, Kyle. I'm sure Adam feels the same way. There's going to be this is basically a redshirt year last year. This is basically his rookie year. There's going to be growing pains with a first year starter at quarterback, but dude's got all the talent in the world, man. And I can't believe I'm going to say this, but by God, he's a fucking winner. He's won everywhere he's been at.
The
So
Vikings did a great job putting him in a position, surrounding him with talent.
Yep.
Reinforcing the offensive line, making sure he's got weapons. They went above and beyond.
Yep. I'll give them a win against the Bengals. This will be interesting here because I like their matchups for both of these games, but at the end of the day, it's the rookie quarterback thing that really comes to haunt me. How's he going to be on the road, international travel? Week 4 in Ireland versus the Steelers. You guys have all went first now. I like the Steelers defense a lot, but I don't trust Mason Rudolph to lead you to win, and I don't think 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers is worth a shit. So, and they got rid of they added DK Metcalf, but they got rid of George Pickens, so they got Najee Harris isn't on the team anymore. They got Freiermuth and DK Metcalf.
Najee Harris not being there is a positive for them. He was terrible.
So I don't know who's going to run the ball. They've got a big number 1 receiver, but who's the number? Like George Pickens was a great player for them, but obviously there's a lot of drama there. So I don't know. I don't like the Steelers just going in every year and being like, we'll just do patchwork at like the most important position. I hate that for them. Love that for us. I'll say they're going to win in Ireland versus the Steelers.
Pittsburgh's defense is the scary part of this. I don't like how Pittsburgh's defense is so physical and aggressive, and unless Minnesota can really establish themselves and have an identity of toughness, I don't know how they'll stack up. That said, I don't think Minnesota's ever lost an international game, so you kind of have to go with a win, right?
Yeah. Do you guys really think a head coach with the last name O'Connell is going to lose a game in Ireland? This is a win. This is a W for the Vikings. They're pulling this one out.
I love that. First one that we all agree on. Get a dub. All right, the next week, week 5, they hop across to London. Not London, but technically everybody says London versus the Browns. They've played in this stadium versus the Browns before. The famous Adam Thielen touchdown into the soccer slide, which was awesome. I don't know what the hell the Browns are doing at quarterback. Is it Shador? Is it Joe Flacco?
Browns don't know either.
They're not going to go into the season with all 4 of these potential guys. So I don't know who's going to be starting for them. Kevin Stefanski is a good coach. I'm glad looks like they're going to be moving on from that Deshaun Watson mess. Myles Garrett is a problem. But I do like our team a little more than theirs based on skill position, number 1, but I just don't trust anyone they have at quarterback. Not saying that J.J. McCarthy is going to blow anybody out of the water, but Kenny Pickett doesn't scare me. Old Joe Flacco doesn't scare me. Shedeur Sanders is probably their best bet if you're being honest, and he seems like I don't want to say a journeyman or an average starter, but he's not going to blow you away. So I'd say the Vikings will squeak this out by a field goal.
Vikings have huge fan support in the UK. This is legitimately, it just might as well be a home game for Minnesota right now. Like, I know it's on a neutral field, but there's going to be a ton of Vikings fans that show up for this one. It's a W for Minnesota. I also don't really believe in anything that the Browns are doing at the moment, particularly at that quarterback position. I'm just mystified that they did what they did in the draft. I don't. Spoilers. I still don't know if they have a long-term solution at quarterback on their roster after everything. After everything that they've did, I don't think they do either. This is a win for Minnesota. I got them going back-to-back wins on the international series here.
Yeah, I like Minnesota playing at these neutral sites, and London has always been good to them. Cleveland does have talent at many positions on the field, but not knowing what their identity is at quarterback and not being able to have an offense that's returning together, and I just don't see Minnesota dropping this game.
I agree. 2 really quick notes on the next 2. Week 6 is a bye, so we don't have to talk about that. We don't like it being this early. I don't think any of us do, but we can't control that. And
after the international games, it makes sense.
Makes sense. You got to have it. Hate this with everything that I have. Week 7 in Minnesota versus the
Oh no,
Eagles. They're not winning this game.
I
no.
It's not happening.
Yeah, it's I got a loss wrote down. I hate to say it, but I mean Philly is still just a notch above the Vikings in terms of talent right now. I think they can eventually close the gap. A lot of that is going to depend on the development of JJ McCarthy. Right now, though, I think that's a loss for Minnesota.
Yeah, they're
I
in
hate to
their
say
own
it, but
league.
that sounds like it. Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
in their own league. They are the champs, and they just have done so well, culture wise. Obviously, the roster is incredible, but
Saquon Barkley. I
yeah,
mean,
I mean, you have literally everything you need, and I don't think they have the best wide receiver duo in the league, but they have a top 5. I don't think they have the best running back in there. You could probably say McCaffrey might be better, but they have
yeah,
a top 2. You have the Super Bowl MVP at quarterback, and then you just have a line of gargoyles offensively and then defensively. And that's not
yeah.
even counting like Cooper DeJean and who was there forever? Darius Slay was there. Like you have all of these players that were so good. Um, yeah, they are the standard, and unfortunately, yeah, the Vikings don't have to go on the road there, but I'd be shocked if they won this game.
I
So
would
we all
love it if they
agree.
did.
I'd
I
love
It's
it
would.
going to be a
too.
huge test. Kevin
I
O'Connell's going to have that extra week to get his team ready, and he's
Mhm.
going to need it.
Um,
We're also at the point too where I feel like the training wheels can start to come off McCarthy. Like if he's doing well, you start to pull the reins back and let him run a little bit more of a big boy offense by this point in the
And
season. Like,
this game is where people start asking for Sam Howell, right?
of course. Yeah.
yeah.
It's time to trade McCarthy. He's a
Well,
bust, and Sam Howell's the future.
there I have a stretch where that conversation might be happening on Twitter, and we
Oh
just
no.
started it. We just started it.
Quick turnaround after an Eagles home game in Minnesota against the Eagles. Quick turnaround Thursday night in LA versus Adam's favorite quarterback, Justin Herbert, and the Chargers. This one is tough for me because Jim Harbaugh knows this kid, our quarterback, better than
Yes,
anyone. And also, quietly, the Chargers are old school building a muscle car. They're not doing the fun, fast, and furious NOS like everybody else in the team. They're building an old Shelby Mustang over there. They started with Joe
good
Alt.
reference.
Yeah,
Thank
they're
you.
building an old school muscle car in LA. They've got some quiet pieces there. They got Ladidi McConkey. I love that name so much. Lad McConkey last year. They got a wideout this year. I don't know how Quentin Johnson's going to look, but they are slowly building pieces everywhere. And I just love Jim Harbaugh as a coach. Um, I don't like the quick turnaround, and it's all the way on the other side of the country. I know Minnesota's sort of centrally located, even though they're up top, but the quick turnaround always sucks. If it was at home, I'd feel a little better. Chargers are a little more improved. Um, I don't like this stretch for the Vikings. They could go 0-4 on this stretch, but I'll give them a win against the Chargers because, spoiler alert, I don't have them winning the next 2 games. So I hope they can come off and bounce back from an Eagles loss to win in LA versus the Chargers. It'll be a tough one.
Until the Chargers can prove that they are a team that can come out and compete on a regular basis, I can't put any faith in them. And I know that they might be different this season with the new talent that they have and the coaching and all that, but I don't know until the Chargers can show me that they are a team that can go out there and consistently play good football. I'm out on the Chargers, so give me Minnesota in this one.
Nice.
I have this one pegged as a loss. I think that Harbaugh can go to his defensive staff, his defensive coordinator, and go, hey, my former college quarterback in JJ McCarthy, here's how we're going to beat him. Here's how we're going to game plan to stop him. And I just think that at this stage in his career, I'm going to, and especially because I truly think they're going to get their ass kicked by the Eagles. I think there's going to be a bit of a hangover the following week. Like I just don't see them turning it around that quickly. I think it's a bit of a trap game. I think it's a loss.
Yep, I could see it either way. Another road game, week 9, at our newly hated opponent. I hate the Detroit Lions. They have swept the Vikings the last 2 years. Week 9
One of
in
only
Detroit.
2 teams to beat Minnesota last season.
Yeah.
At the Lions, now this one's tough. I do think the Lions are still a better team all around than the Vikings, only by a hair. But they did lose both the offensive and defensive coordinator. And I think that is going to be way more significant than people think. They did lose a player or two as well to free agency. So a little more competitive. I like the Vikings at home more, but I feel like this is one of those teams and one of those wonky years where they'll win away and lose at home with the Lions. So um, I don't have them beating the Lions, but it'll be a little closer. I think the Lions take a slight step back because they got decimated last year at the end of the year, and then they got embarrassed at home. And it really showed like, hey, this isn't the super team that you thought it was. And just like, unless you're the Eagles or the Chiefs, I think every team has a window. I think the Lions have entered into their probably year 3 or 4 of their window. That window doesn't stay open for 10 years. It's going to be a very short window. People are going to get older. They're going to need to get paid. So I think they'll be a little more competitive. I'll say they'll lose at the Lions, but I think maybe coming back around, they could probably win at home.
Yeah, I got a loss here. I think Detroit's just too ready at this moment. They've got so much momentum against Minnesota and so much talent, and they match up well. It's just not good.
Yeah, I got the Vikings on a 3-game losing stretch here. I think the back-to-back road games are going to be a lot for them. Their head coach, Dan Campbell. I know they lost their 2 assistants. That is going to take them a step back a little bit, but I still believe in Dan Campbell. I think he's a hell of a head coach. Detroit has proven to be a pretty tough environment to play in underneath him as well too. So I'm going to go with a loss on that one.
This one's interesting. Week 10 at home, but versus the Ravens. It's interesting to see how this will match up. I feel like Lamar Jackson is a kind of the class of the league at quarterback. When you think about a Mount Rushmore of the current era of quarterbacks, I think you have to put him on there as a 2-time MVP. He has had a little success in the playoffs, been in the AFC Championship. They played them very well a few years ago with Kirk Cousins in Baltimore. I like the Vikings roster. They just signed Derrick Henry and made him the highest paid running back ever over 30. I think it's crazy. He's going to go. I think they were talking about on Rich Eisen last week. At the end of this year, he's going to crack into one of the record books there. I think Derrick Henry might be a Hall of Famer, guys. He's very, very good.
Yeah, I think
he's
so
been
too.
doing it for a long time.
Yep.
I think this is a tough battle for the Vikings, but they're going to have to find some grit during the year. I think they can squeak out a win versus the Ravens. But it'll be tough because you got to contain Lamar in the pocket, and that's no disrespect to him. He can beat you from the pocket, but I don't like the ad lib because we've been burned by the Cam Newtons and RG3s and Michael Vicks over the years. Like, you can't let him do that because he's so damn good at it. But I think they can find a way to win at home and try to right the ship because that's a rough stretch there. Eagles in LA, in Detroit, they got to find a way to win again. So I'll give them a win against the Ravens in a hopeful turnaround for this another daunting stretch of the season.
And I don't like this one either. The Ravens just can do too many things that can make things difficult for Minnesota. And I don't know if the Vikings can match up in places, especially against the run, where it can come from so many different ways. Yeah, Baltimore, I think, has got this one.
Nice. I agree with everything that you guys have said about the Ravens. I don't need to go over any of that right now. I think US Bank Stadium is an incredibly difficult environment to play in. Home field advantage for us really is a big deal. I think that week 10 at home against the Ravens, if there was ever a time to make a statement game, this is a good statement kind of game for the Vikings. I had them going on a 3-game losing stretch. We're coming back home. I think we're going to win this one. I got a W.
Nice. I like that. Another home game in week 11 versus the Bears. I can't remember if I said they were going to lose. They were going to split, I believe, in Chicago. I said it would be a loss. I'm going to give them a win versus the Bears here because it'll be at home. Thank God they're not week 11 outside in the Windy City because that would suck. That looks to be like end of October, beginning of November timeframe. That would be terrible. It's not going to be better the next week in Green Bay, but I'll take that. I like them versus the Bears to at least split this year. So if I gave them a loss in week 1, I'll give them a win here.
Yep, that's my thought process too. I had them a loss at Chicago, so the home game home field advantage. Yeah, we'll get a win.
Yeah, I got a Minnesota sweep of the Bears. I like what the Bears are doing in some ways of getting their offense all ready and getting some pieces on defense and getting things together, but I don't think they're quite ready to be that competitive breakout team that the media thinks they're going to be every year.
Yeah,
That's true. They are the preseason Super Bowl champs, just like the Cowboys every year. Tough test week 12 at the Packers. Having the Packers this late, I feel like we usually go to Green Bay earlier in the year, or at least it's every other season it's been like that. I remember some very bright, sunny games, especially in the Cousins era, where they played them early on. Going to them at week 12, meeting the Packers at week 12 would be interesting. I'm not a big fan of Jordan Love. I know that they had to kind of pay him because he had a little magical run, and like you can't bet on moving off of him.
yeah. I mean, you could.
You could, but it's just not the trend nowadays. It's to pay them ahead
Yeah.
of time or for a very little sample size rather than wait.
Oh, shut up, Sam.
What happened?
She's Packers fan.
Oh, that's your friend. That's your friend Sam.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we don't need that.
No, we don't.
If you're gonna be if you're gonna name your team after cheese, if your mascot is cheese, we don't need it. It's tough. It's one of those things where they swept them last year. I do think that the Packers are a good team. I like their coach a lot. They got better at wide receiver. They took a first round wide receiver, so I'll say they'll split. I think the Vikings. I think they're going to lose in Green Bay.
Well, sorry, Samantha. You can go pack go all you want, but Minnesota's walking into Lambeau Field, and it's going to be a tough, gritty performance. They're going to pick up the W. I think this is the part of the season where I really believe in J.J. McCarthy, and I think that the Vikings are going to hit their groove, and we're going to go in and smack them in the mouth. A good Brian Flores defense will get you to a victory on the road in that one.
Nick Swardson is going to be very sad after week 12 because I don't think Minnesota's going to get it done in Green Bay.
That's so funny. Who did he say they were going to be in the Super Bowl with the Las Vegas somebody last year when he predicted? He's so funny. He's such a goofball. All right, for the 18th year in a row, the Vikings go to Seattle for whatever dumbass reason. I'm so sick of this. I'm so beyond sick of them traveling to Seattle.
I don't care.
I don't care that they play Seattle. Just make them come to Minnesota for once. For just once. I can only think of one time in the last 10 years where they've played in Minnesota, and it wasn't even at US Bank. It was
it was in the playoffs.
Well, no, not that one, but I'm thinking about maybe the year before the Legion of Boom was doing Legion of Boom things, but it was the game that I always reference. Cordarrelle Patterson ran one back, and it's the only points the Vikings score, and he's like flexing and all that. I'm like, bro, it's 36-6. Shut the hell up.
So do you guys believe that Sam Darnold will be the same Sam Darnold in Seattle?
No, I don't.
I believe that he will show that he is better than years past in Carolina or New York, but I don't think you have the firepower there that you have, nor do you have the coach that you have, and I think there will be a little bit of regression. This seems more like a 25-12 touchdown to interception year versus what did he have last year, like 35-8 or something. Seems like a little regression. I do like Sam Darnold. That's a tough division too, man. If the Niners get back on track, you got to play the Rams twice. Like the Cardinals could be annoying. That's a tough one. I like the Vikings to expose Sam, being so familiar with him from last year and knowing what rattles him. So that's why I'll pick them to win in Seattle.
I'm totally with you on this one. Mm-hmm. Minnesota's got what they need to do to be able to put Seattle away. The new change at quarterback. Darnold without O'Connell, I don't know if it's going to be anywhere near the same.
Yep, I also got a win for this one as well, too. And I do think that as much as Kevin O'Connell liked Sam Darnold, for him, he's an ultra competitive guy. There's a little bit of that, hey, I want to win with my rookie quarterback and with my team, and like that's going to be a solid win, I think, for the team.
I like it. Week 14 is a big test. NFC Championship runner-up, the Commanders last year, the Cinderella team in the playoffs. Man, they started to fire on all cylinders at the end of the year. They have a really good young quarterback. I don't know what in the hell Chicago was thinking. Cliff Kingsbury was in their building last year. to be the head coach for Caleb Williams, and they let him go to Washington to be the OC for Dan Quinn and Jaden Daniels. What a major fumble that was by the Bears. I like that this is at home. I think the Vikings do have a fighting chance. They did lose. What was the guy we signed, defensive tackle? Oh, my God. I know Javon Hargrave from San Francisco. Who did we sign? Jonathan Hargrave. Who do we sign from the Commanders? Defensive lineman. Shit.
My name's not working. My head's not working right now on that.
Damn it. Anyways, we signed Jonathan Allen, maybe?
There you go.
Jonathan Allen. I'm glad he's playing for us. That is one hell of a unit there. I don't know this is such a gimme game. I'll err on the side of caution. They win in Seattle. They lose at home to a slightly better Commanders team. They looked really good last year.
Washington's got the youth. They got some coaching. They got enough excitement and explosive playmakers. I don't know if Minnesota can get past Washington. I don't know.
I have
Washington there.
Yeah, I have it pinned down as a loss too, Adam. I think that the old Washington football team, they've got a hell of a young rookie quarterback out there, and just a head coach that I believe in, and just a good overall solid roster. I know it's a home game, but again, this is one of those ones where I'm coming down to, and I don't want to pin every loss on the same statement about J.J. McCarthy being our quarterback, because that makes it sound like I don't believe in him. But I do think that there's going to be some rookie growing pains a little bit this season with him.
He's a young quarterback. He's going to make some mistakes. It's going to happen.
Yes. And I think it's fair to say that we don't know. We don't know about McCarthy. We've seen like half of a preseason game against the Raiders with him, and that's it. It is still a really big unknown for the Vikings. Now, by week 14, for all we know, he could be on a hell of a tear where we're like, holy cow, where did this kid come from? We hope so. I'm going to err on caution, though, and say probably not. Probably not going to happen that early in his career. So I've got a loss for this one.
I also have to do the obligatory thing because I want to sound cool, and I'm going to lie to everybody and tell you that I am cool for saying this. The most underrated player in the NFL that never gets enough love and shine. Shout out to motherfucking Terry McLaurin. That dude he's a fucking animal. 5 years in a row now.
Year in, year out, major production, never gets the big headlines. It's amazing.
Never. A fifth year in a row, he has 1,000 yards. He had 13 touchdown catches last year.
Yeah.
Dude's a fucking animal. And respect.
Hey, we say this all the time. Imagine if he was on a big market team. A big marquee franchise in the league.
Instead, if he was in Detroit, he would do what Golden Tate used to do to the Vikings years ago. Just terrorize this team. I had to give a shout out. I'm thinking about all these teams and any like little things to pull out. Shout out Terry McLaurin. You're a dog, dude. I hope week 15 they dog walk the shit out of the Cowboys. I am so sick of this team getting primetime games, and they're just average. I don't care. You can argue with me till you're blue in the face, Cowboys fans. Argue with me all you want. Well, everybody tunes in. Yeah, they want to see you lose. They don't watch you because they like you.
Everyone
they're
tunes
making
in.
fun of you. Everyone
tunes in because it's like Sunday 3 p.m. the only game on television.
And
what else?
I want to say this too. It's a disservice to the Philadelphia Eagles and the rest of – not really. The Eagles are going to win on the opening night, Thursday night. They're going to beat the shit out of the Cowboys, and I'm here for it. But
there's something really special that Dallas has to be in Philadelphia and watch them raise the Super Bowl banner. There's something about that.
But that's my point to say, like, I'm glad. I think the Cowboys are going to get dog walked week 1, and I hope they do. I hope they get beat 40-0. But you know what? You could put anybody on that first game slate and it would serve the same numbers because every year the NFL gets bigger and bigger. The Eagles played the Chiefs at some point this year. You should have did the Super Bowl rematch.
But you know something absolutely wild about NFL ratings? People are going to tune in and watch the Hall of Fame game, and no starters are going to play in that, and it's going to be terrible football, but people are going to watch it.
And isn't it wild? Doesn't like the Hall of Fame game like pull in better numbers than like a Major League Baseball fucking like postseason playoff game?
Yes.
You guys see that meme that came around on NFL Draft Time where it was like a big like drone shot of everyone standing around in the parking lot? watching the draft, and it was
Yeah.
like, this is why the NFL is undefeated. Look at the amount of people that showed up to just watch people walk
Watch
on
32
stage.
names be called.
Yeah, it's
Speaking of that,
wild.
I want to hijack the conversation for a minute because I want to talk to you guys about the whole thing going around every year when something wild goes on in another sport. The conversation has come up again about the NFL. Some people say they need a draft lottery.
Yeah, no, no,
And I am very,
no.
very against it.
Here's my thing, and I told Kyle this. You can make fun of me. You can call me a conspiracy theorist all you want. I don't care. The evidence is there. You can't change. You can't change my mind. Luka Doncic gets traded to the LA Lakers, and then somehow the Mavericks get the number one pick.
And this is the first time that's happened.
It's not the first, and it won't be the last.
Dude,
My Charlotte
when
Hornets are the
LeBron, hold
worst
on,
team in the league every year. They will not put a superstar number one player there because guess what? Charlotte doesn't pull eyeballs and numbers.
Right?
It's not going to do it. And
dude,
you have to, Kyle. I know you're going to get to it. He's
I
going to
know.
agree with me when I say this. It's not about integrity. It's about money and it's about ratings and eyeballs. That's all it's about. If you think the NFL is going to get any better, the Chiefs would wind up with a number one pick somehow after a down year, and I would set a school on fire. Don't, no,
So
never, ever, ever, ever. No.
LeBron James, when he was on the Pat McAfee show, said the quiet part out loud finally about the NBA draft lottery, about himself, when he was like, so I came out of, I don't think he went to college. He went straight from high school right to the NBA.
Right,
But
Akron.
when he was like, the year that I came out, Cleveland gets the number one overall pick. like that's just how that happened.
And
That's
listen,
just
listen, I understand it would have shaped things and the trajectory would have been crazy if he would have went somewhere else. But if you're going to sit there and argue with me, it's not, they don't, I'm not saying it's 100% rigged. But if you don't think they don't have their hand deep in that cookie jar, I've got some oceanfront property to sell you in Arizona, dude. Because
Statistically, what happened to the draft lottery this year was so unlikely.
I know. Anyway, the
so
Vikings beat the Cowboys.
I think the Vikings can beat the Cowboys. I want to go on my little Eagles rant one more time. The Eagles are playing the NFC North this year. So week one, you had literally 3 opportunities that are better than the 500 mediocre Cowboys. You could have gotten the NFC Championship game rematch against the Commanders. They play the Commanders twice a year. That could have been week one. That game was fireworks. You could have had the NFC Championship game that should have been against the Lions last year until they choked to the Commanders. They're playing the Lions. That you could have had that on the schedule. That could have been a thing. Or you could have did the Super Bowl rematch and you picked the Cowboys for week one. Okay, you get the Cowboys out of the way. I'm just irritated because they have 7 primetime games. And this one is, I don't have the schedule up in front of me. This is a primetime game as well, right? It's
Yep.
like a afternoon or a night game. Dog shit. Fuck the Cowboys. 100%. Their line's not as good as it used to be. They don't have a good running back. I don't care that they got George Pickens. They have Brian Schottenheimer running this place.
But
So,
they are going to win a nighttime matchup against the Minnesota Vikings.
ooh, go breaking my heart, Adam. I hope they win that game. I'm going to say they're going to win after Cowboys. Week 16 in New Jersey versus the New York Giants. I don't trust Russell Wilson. By that point, it might not even be him starting. It might be Crab Legs or Jackson Dart. I'm not sure. I don't like the weather for this game. Hopefully it's a 1:00 game, so it's a little earlier in the day. Maybe it won't be as cold. But I think this team is far superior than what the Giants roster is, even with Russell Wilson at quarterback, question mark. I am not noted.
By week 16, you have no idea who the quarterback is going to be. I'll just say it. We'll be playing their interim head coach at this point. Their GM is probably going to be fired by week 16 as well too. Like I don't really have any clue what the Giants are doing. I think this is a win for the Vikings.
So, have you guys heard of this success predictor test that apparently quarterbacks are taking? Because Jackson Dart scored a perfect score on it.
Oh, really? That's good. I
So
don't
I
know
don't know
much.
what that means, and I'm not familiar with the test, but I just saw that report come through, and I need to look into it a little bit more because I don't know what it is.
I don't know. Sunday night. Oh, nice. I don't know anything about it. I don't know much about Jackson Dart. I heard his name floated around. I know he played in the SEC, but I didn't watch any of his games. And that's just a failure on my part. But the Vikings had no interest in him.
But
So
I do know that the Giants don't like to win games at home, so there you go, Minnesota.
Yeah.
Somehow Brian Daboll and that staff are still around. So
He won't be. This is the year that they finally.
I like him a lot, man. I
do.
really like what his thumbprint and his kind of like fingerprint was on Josh Allen's development. But man, they really fucked up with keeping Daniel Jones and letting Saquon go. And
It's
you rolled with
mostly
Daniel Jones, man.
it's not. This is okay. So this is not on Brian Dable. It's that slimeball, sleazy general manager that they have, and it's the owner, dude. Like those two are just a trifecta of terrible. Like there is nobody you're putting
I
in
like
to
that. That
coach.
can be an episode of whenever we do the review of that, we're going to call that week the trifecta of terrible. I
Yeah,
appreciate that a lot.
there you go.
So we all think we beat the Giants.
Yeah,
Nice. I hope my
Pretty.
neighbor's watching, but my neighbor next door is a Giants fan. He's like, you better talk about Big Blue. I'm like, yeah, I just predicted we're going to beat y'all week 16. So that's fun. All right. Rounding out the season with 2 home games against division rivals. Week 17 versus Detroit in Minnesota. Vikings got to get one back. It's been 2 years in a row they've been swept. They have to win a game against Detroit at some point. I think this will be it. I think they will still be in playoff contention. I'm not sure how good it'll be. I think they will take a step back from 14-3 from last year. That was absurd. But I do expect them to be competing for a playoff spot, and I like them to at least split with the Lions.
I still don't like the matchup. I don't like the way the Lions stack up against Minnesota. It's another loss.
Home field, week 17. I'll take the Vikings. I think that could be a W for them.
And the last week of the season, week 18, home for the Packers. I think they will close out this season with a win against Green Bay. I do like Green Bay as an up-and-coming team. They are one of the youngest, if not the youngest roster age-wise.
Even with Minnesota resting all their starters?
Shit. If they're resting their starters, it's because they've lost almost every game and they don't want anybody to get hurt. I love this team. Listen, we saw some magic, even though it didn't translate to wins 2 years ago when Kirk tore his Achilles. Josh Dobbs stepped in and won some games. Nick Mullins was throwing for 400 yards. Like, we know what can happen, but a lot has to go right for that to repeat from last year. This literally all banks on the arm, the knee, ironically, and the shoulders of J.J. McCarthy. So I think Kevin O'Connell's going to do everything in his power to make sure they've certainly done their part management-wise and roster-wise, but it all depends on the kid. I hope he comes out firing, man. I really do hope it, because the only knock I have on J.J. McCarthy, and this is stupid, it's very, very minuscule, he's a little undersized for my liking. That's why I like Drake May a lot. He's a big boy. He's a little undersized for what I like, but I'm ready because he's just infectious, man. Every time I see the kid talking, I'm like, I'm T.O. in Dallas. I'm like, that's my quarterback, man. Like, I love him, man. I
love what J.J. McCarthy does on third down situations. He makes things happen. I know that he has a limited number of reps because it was a running game in college. I get that. But when Michigan put the ball in his hands and told him to make something happen, something happened.
Also, I want to piggyback on this, Adam. I don't like this narrative at all. And this isn't directed at you. I'm actually on your side. But what I'm hearing a lot from, because he got hurt last year, was like, well, this ain't Michigan. Hey, stupid. He's already been in the league for a year. What do you mean? Of course it's not Michigan. He was on the roster last year. Well, he didn't play. Okay. So he got to redshirt for a year and he got to understand and sit down. You know, the thing they did for 70 years before we just started rushing kids out on the field. He actually got a chance to learn what the NFL's like and just not have the pressure on him. Oh, God, that's terrible. Like, can we just spin it as a positive for once? I keep hearing this from Colin Cowherd and on the Rich Eisen show. And Dan.
That's why I had to mention it.
God, it's so dumb. It's like, well, he didn't have a lot in college. He didn't play in college last year. Like, we're literally talking about 2 years ago. I get it. trust me, it was my knock when we drafted him. I remember that episode when we did the live draft, and I was like, well, let's see. He only threw for like 8 times in one of those games. You're not going to get that in the NFL, but it's like, I don't think the kid's arm is the problem. I think that when you drive, I'll use a car analogy again. You remember earlier I said the Vikings or the Chargers are building an old Shelby Mustang? Well, if you're driving an old Jeep and it's a stick shift and it's a 4-cylinder, there's only so much you can do with that. It's all reliable. It'll get you there. That's what happened with Michigan. He didn't have to do much. But I don't think J.J. McCarthy's arm is the issue. I think that's something
Was it T.J. Hawkinson that said that J.J. McCarthy's footballs, when he throws them, are a lot like Matt Stafford's?
Yes, it was.
Oh, I love that.
Yep.
He might have just been blowing smoke up to hype him up. I don't give a shit. I love that
Maybe.
quote so much.
I believe it.
I love that so much.
It. And J.J. McCarthy, by the way, I have them closing the season out with a loss. That just kind of feels like a thing that the Vikings would do.
See, I got the win there because I got the split against Green Bay, so I got the win there.
But the whole knock on McCarthy not being able to throw the football, like you said, he only threw it 8 times in one game or whatever. So McCarthy also talked about how difficult that was on him because he wanted to be out there being, a gunslinger, throwing it more, but he was able to put his ego aside and run the offense that the coaches wanted him to do to, guess what? Win the football game. I kind of like that from my quarterback. I kind of like my quarterback to go, you know what? This is what you need me to do. If that's what you think will win us the football game, I'm going to go out there and execute it, even if it means that my personal numbers are not going to be as strong as what, they could be. We're still going to go win that football game. And so I love that attitude from J.J. McCarthy.
I'm Googling this now, and AI is helping me. How many college championship quarterbacks played for the Minnesota Vikings?
Can't be very many.
J.J. McCarthy in 2024, Will Howard in 2025. Well, that can't happen because, Will Howard, the Vikings drafted Will Howard, who also won a national championship with they drafted Will Howard? I don't think he went to us.
I don't think you should rely on AI.
I don't even know who Will Howard is.
He just won a national championship, so he's all right. But let's see where he went. He plays for the Steelers, so AI is definitely wrong there.
Yeah, AI is terrible. You shouldn't use it for anything.
But this is what I was getting to with that comment and looking that up is how many people can you say, I don't care that if you were a corner on an LSU team or you won with Ohio State and you were a tackle. How many college championship quarterbacks have played for the team? That's not for nothing, and that means a little something to me. It might not end up translating to anything, but I like that.
Can you look me this up real quick while I'm making a point here?
Yeah.
Just tell me how many wins Christian Ponder had in college, and tell me how many wins J.J. McCarthy had in college, and just the number of years each kid played. I really don't know, but I'd be curious to see what that looks like.
Christian Ponder, 22 games won, and then we'll do J.J. McCarthy. $27 and 1 as a starter.
There you go.
So one good thing to be excited about, and I want to mention this before we call it quits on here for today, but Minnesota has all their draft picks under contract, so we got nothing to worry about heading into the season. I love that.
No holdouts. No, nothing. I like that. What did you guys have for your final record for the team? Because I had them finishing the year out 10-7.
I wasn't counting.
I didn't count, but I did take a photo earlier and send to you guys when it first came out last week. I had them anywhere from 9-8 to 11-6. It's all going to depend on how it shakes out, but I do feel like this is still a 500 or better team. It all depends on the quarterback and some ebbs and flows. It doesn't help that the schedule is kind of daunting at 2 different points in time, but
it truly is.
That's just how it works.
I have them
right now the Vikings are 8-0 in international games, and they could make it 10-0 this season.
Yeah,
it's pretty sweet.
I do think they will. So I got them being a 10-win team. That's a little bit of a step back from what they were last year, and I think that that's fair. I could see a couple of these that I called coin flip games, coming out on the positive for the Vikings. I mean, they could be a 13-win game if some of that Minnesota magic goes a little bit more their way.
And we've said this multiple times on the show. Minnesota repeating that win total is going to be very difficult.
It
Minnesota
truly
probably
is.
will not win as many games, but they might be a more well-rounded team and a better team in general. So
it's also kind of fun, I think, if you keep your expectations, like we were talking about, Adam, maybe a little in check to where when they do go on a run in the middle of the season, it's just that much more special and exciting because maybe you weren't quite expecting it from the team. Now, like you said, I think JJ McCarthy is the biggest question on the Vikings. I think that's fair because we truly don't know, but the cast of talent they have put around him, particularly on offense, is about as good as you can get for a redshirt rookie quarterback coming in. He's got excellent wide receivers and tight ends, and I like what they've done at the running back position. They've tried about as hard as you can try to fix that offensive line. On paper, they went out and they addressed it, man. And I know that you're looking at some older players that they brought in. I'm fine with that because you're bringing in a center with a lot of veteran experience that can help McCarthy, can help him diagnose what the defense is doing, get the offensive players in the best position to succeed. I like that. I think that there's a lot of room to grow for McCarthy, and I think it'll be a fun season to watch as a Vikings fan, regardless.
I am still a little concerned about the defensive secondary. I don't know if the safety situation is going to look the same. I like what they've done with bringing some of those corners in, but again, I don't know if there's going to be enough depth there, and there's some new faces and players returning from injury, and it's going to be a lot to see how they work together this season.
Yeah, secondary is definitely my biggest concern of this team. You're taking a lot of bargain bin players. Jeff Okudah has not been anywhere worth the 3 overall pick that he was drafted at. Mekhi Blackman's coming off injury. I will take McGlothern, and who did they sign? Jay Ward? Somebody
Isaiah
else?
Rodgers.
No. I know that guy. I like him. I'm thinking about who they gave the extension to. Who was
Byron Murphy?
Who's the other? I'm missing somebody else there. It's one of the guys that played a little bit last year, but they kind of did the Danielle Hunter thing with him.
Are you talking about that safety Bobby, whatever his name is?
Bobby Wagner. Didn't know he was on the Minnesota Vikings.
He is a Minnesota Viking. AI says he's a Viking. Yeah, I like any guy that they sign ahead of time doing the Metellus and Danielle Hunter thing with. I'm all for it. Like they know something that we don't. But I am a little concerned that they went kind of bargain bin shopping.
Theo Jackson was the
Theo
name.
Jackson, that's who I'm thinking of. If they have faith in him, I'm putting all my faith
Not
in him.
Bobby.
Bob Jackson. I would agree with you. Secondary is. I want to talk about one more thing because it happened and because I get a chance to be a little extra and petty. The 49ers signed Brock Purdy to a 5-year contract extension, and it was stupid. Kirk Cousins played a lot longer than this kid hit, and this kid made in one contract almost what Kirk has made in his entire career.
That's the league, though, now, dude.
$181 million guaranteed. Brock Purdy, I'm going to say this. You could flip me off. I don't think you'd do that. I think you're a very nice gentleman, and you were Mr. Irrelevant last pick. So you came around and came full circle. You played in a Super Bowl. You played in an NFC Championship game the year before. You could tell me to piss off. I would never be behind my team paying this guy that much money. It's absurd. It's like $52.5 million averaged a year. 5 years, $265 million, $181 guaranteed, a no trade clause for the duration. Brother, San Francisco, you went to a Super Bowl with Jimmy freaking Garoppolo 4 years prior. You don't need to pay Brock Purdy this money. Brock Purdy fully feels like a $39 million a year Baker Mayfield kind of quarterback, and they paid him Josh Allen money.
A lot of these teams are giving these guys massive contracts that have not really proven themselves enough to make it worth it.
I understand the argument would be he took them to a Super Bowl at the most important position. He played well. I understand that. But I also have to look at the budget of the team. That was a super team a few years ago. Gargoyles at every position. And it had not been for a couple of coaching mistakes and some blunders, they'd have a trophy to show for it. You can't build a team when you invest that much money in a quarterback. And I'll show you this right now because I saw it yesterday on the old Instagram. The top 10 highest paid quarterbacks in the league right now, I'll give you a guess. How many of those are Super Bowl winners? The top 10 highest paid quarterbacks in the league. How many Super Bowl trophies are there, guys?
2?
Fucking zero.
I almost said
Don't
that.
pay your quarterback generational money. Don't do it. Give them a fair price. And look, I think he did kind of under the radar what I've been complaining players should be doing anyways. Get it front loaded. That helps the team first. Get your guaranteed money in there. But if you could just take 10% less, and I understand the conversation we just had earlier is me being a total hypocrite now. I get it. But if you want to help the team, I acknowledge it. I'm being an asshole right now. But if you want to help the team be able to just breathe a little bit, to sign a Trey Hendrickson, who is the league leader in sacks 2 years in a row, you have to be able to do that. Look what Kansas City did with Mahomes. And I don't care what anybody says. You can pick your preference of, well, I
At
like
the time,
Lamar.
Kansas City got slammed in the media for that big, long contract.
And it's the smartest thing they've done in the last 3 years.
Oh, yeah.
And it's weird because, yes, I understand they have the perfect quarterback combination with him and Coach Reed. But you can pick your poison too. What I was just going to say, oh, I like Josh Allen. Well, I like Burrow. Well, I like Lamar Jackson. Okay.
I like Trevor Lawrence.
What? Sit down. Nobody cares. Shh, shh. We found the Chargers fan. He's sitting in the Jaguar seat. Yeah. But the thing being, like, these guys could still make great money. I think you could just present it in a different way to make it better for the team. I don't know why nobody's doing that. And it doesn't make sense to me. $50 million a year, that's the new standard. Well, you go to them and you say, hey, look, I'm going to take $45 million a year because it's less and it'll help the team. But I'm going to get you to give me 4 of those years guaranteed. No trade clause, fully guaranteed contract. You paid Deshaun Watson on a team $250 million, and he hasn't done shit. I think Brock Purdy could have got that deal restructured a different way. I don't like this for San Francisco, but unfortunately, just like the NIL conversation I had earlier, this is where we are. And it's only going to get – Adam said it in the chat. Adam gets all the credit here. Adam, is J.J. McCarthy going to be the first quarterback that gets paid $60 million a year?
I can't wait to see what Jaden Daniels gets when it's his turn if he keeps up doing what he's doing.
Oh, imagine Caleb Williams turns out to be what they wanted.
Oh, jeez.
I'll take $64 million a year. Thanks. What? It's insane. It's insane, man. I never thought we'd be here. Remember when Kirk, just 8 years ago, signed for $29 million a year, and we were all like, this is bullshit. Oh, my goodness. Now, $53 million a year for the very last pick in the draft.
Wild.
I'm a big Iowa State guy. Brock Purdy's my guy. I'm a big fan of his. So yeah. I'm not gonna knock him.
We're all in the camp of good for him. Go get your money.
It's a lot of money. I'm with Smith on it being probably too much money, but that's also, dude, this is just the way the league is working right now. That's just how you pay guys. And no team wants to be the first team to say, we're not paying our quarterback who a couple years ago took us to Super Bowl. Like, we're not going to be the first team that says, no, we're not paying you. Well, we're just not doing it. Eventually now, someone will, and it's going to set the precedent for everyone else to go, maybe that is too much.
And what you just explained is another reason why it was really a kind of a bold move from Minnesota's GM to move on from Kirk Cousins, who was a stable presence for the Minnesota Vikings. Was he great? Was he going to bring Minnesota to the Super Bowl? Probably not, but he was a stable presence.
Yeah.
A very good quarterback. And he could have rode the Kirk Cousins train for like 4 or 5 years and made the playoffs a couple of years and been fine. But instead, Minnesota's GM says, you know what? Mediocre isn't good enough for us. We need to do better.
I'm with Kyle on this. I'm not shitting on Brock Purdy, the quarterback, or the person like in general. I'm just saying this is my point to make. When you put this much money to a player, if I take Brock Purdy and I put him on the Tennessee Titans, who were the worst team last year, Are they going to the Super Bowl? No fucking chance. If I take Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson or now Josh Allen and put him on the Tennessee Titans, they're probably not going to the Super Bowl. But I can watch and say, whatever that guy is, protect him at all costs. I don't see that and even physically, Brock Purdy, he's not a big dude. But I'm going to step back, and that'll be the last criticism I give. I hope nothing but health and happiness. And I'll tell you one thing, to turn it around and be in support of Brock Purdy, I think it was horseshit. He only made $900,000 a year for the first couple of years, took him to a Super Bowl, and dude could probably barely afford rent in San Francisco. Now he can buy a whole street corner.
What really irks me, and this is not a dig on you or any of your opinions at all here, Smith, but everyone loves to pick apart Brock Purdy based on where he was drafted and make that exact same statement that you just, if you put him on this X, Y, and Z team, they would not be a Super Bowl contender. So when I was I was in an Iowa State game last year, and I seen a dude walking around with a T-shirt. And it must have been like a homemade T-shirt. It was black with white text on the front of it, and all it said was, "Maybe Brock Purdy is good at football." And I think that's hilarious, because that is I just want to say that to everyone, because every point you made is valid. You can criticize him up and down on everything. Maybe at the end of the day, he's just good at football and deserves the contract that he just got. And that's kind of in the camp that I'm in.
So one last question before we take off. What team is the least watchable team in the NFL right now?
Oh, God, it might be the Giants.
Giants, Raiders, Titans. I mean, there's some options out there.
I mean, the Saints right now look like a disaster waiting to happen.
Would be tough to watch.
Dude, honestly, Adam, that's a lot. I was going to say a top 4 or 5. There's 5. Pittsburgh right now, if Aaron Rodgers signs there, I'd love to see what him and Mike Tomlin can come up with for a farewell tour. But right now, you have Mason Rudolph. I would rather fart in my hand and huff it for an hour than watch the Steelers with Mason Rudolph.
I'll be honest. The Steelers with Aaron Rodgers doesn't excite me any more than Mason Rudolph. It really doesn't.
That's funny.
You're not. Cam Ward with the Titans kind of adds a little bit of interest anyway.
Oh, I mean, I'll watch a Titans game this year for sure. Like that first week, I'll watch the first game. I want to see if that kid runs around I want to see if he looks like Cam Newton, because he's big and strong, and he could be. Pittsburgh, I think Justin Fields is a terrible quarterback, and I've died on that hill and been right every year. The Jets with Justin Fields, is he suddenly going to be accurate now?
Kind of forgot about that. But
the
Colts,
you're right.
I
don't want to watch Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson. They're both not good. Cleveland, Trevor Lawrence doesn't look good so far. There's 5, and I haven't even mentioned the horse manure that is the New York Giants. I don't want to watch any. I love Jameis Winston's personality. I think he's hilarious. Russell Wilson.
So do you guys feel like there's a bigger imbalance right now in the NFL between good teams and bad teams? Or do you feel like it's still kind of equal?
I think it's more good teams than bad, but I think the bad teams are just so bad. It's because it all really depends on, you got to have a superstar. I think that's why everybody loved that Travis Hunter pick so much. It's well, holy crap, now we got somebody fun to watch. It's didn't you just pay a quarterback like he's fun to watch? We're yeah, but we don't know about him, but hey, we got the shiny new toy.
The NFL needs to figure something out with one of these other spring leagues. What the fuck? What's XFL, USFL, or whatever the name of it is right now?
UFL.
UFL. There is not really enough NFL caliber starting quarterbacks for 32 teams. The NFL needs to figure something out where we are sending our practice squad guys, our third string guys, to this other league to let them develop and get more reps and get on the field and potentially grow and develop. Because I think
college football is supposed to be the developmental land, but that's not the way it works.
But you hear this all the time. You hear this from Nick Saban, and any of the big coaches always say that they're there to win a football game, not necessarily develop talent for the NFL. Their job is not to develop talent for the next level. Their job is to win at the college level. And that's why sometimes J.J. McCarthy only throws 8 passes in a football game, because Jim Harbaugh is not worried about developing him for the Minnesota Vikings. He's trying to win that football game.
But can I
And
tell you our point earlier, Kyle, that I totally hear you. I'm not against it. I don't necessarily agree 100% with a developmental league, but I understand what you're saying. I'll tell you why it's never going to work, because everybody only cares about money and views, revenue and eyeballs. You know how they get revenue and eyeballs? Not by being patient and developing fucking quarterbacks. Because back in the day, Aaron Rodgers would sit for 3 years. And you could say, man, what if Rodgers would have started? Well, I remember the last year Favre was in Green Bay. They got to the NFC Championship game. So probably smart to sit him because the old man was still slinging the ball. People are too freaking impatient, and you rush these kids out. There is such a major gap. And we say this all the time. Guys, you've heard this 100 times on podcasts or shows. Could the best college football team ever, whatever Nick Saban Alabama team, that Joe Burrow LSU team, whatever, the Florida Tim Tebow team, could they beat the shittiest 0-16 Lions team? Abso-fucking-lutely not. They are worlds apart. And you throw a quarterback, the most important position, and you've got two-time All-American defensive end, whatever of the year defensive lineman. I got this guy over here who's been playing for however long. He played at this school, and he got 40 sacks in 2 years at this school. You're going to throw quarterbacks into this league and be like, well, I need to win games right now. I can't develop them. We got to win because my job's on the line. That's why it'll never happen. And it's sad because I think you're right, Kyle. I think if they gave them just one, you don't have to do multiple, just do one redshirt year of, I need you to sit down and fully comprehend. So things like Caleb Williams not having to sit alone and watch film, so that shit doesn't happen. You know what I mean? I'm fully on board with you for that.
I know we're going super long here. We'll wrap it up. And I don't necessarily mean like, oh, we'll let Caleb Williams go to a redshirt year in the XFL and play. I'm thinking more along the lines of like the undrafted quarterback the Vikings got from
Minnesota.
It was the Gophers quarterback. So he's probably looking at being like a practice squad guy. So if Minnesota could be like, hey, you're signed to our practice squad, we're going to give you the rights. You're going to go play in the XFL in the spring league, and like that, we're going to let you try to like develop and learn that way. But you're still under contract with the Minnesota Vikings, so you can't be poached by any other team. I think that would be an interesting way to kind of let guys, your undrafted guys, kind of develop and get reps, meaningful reps out there on a field.
And it could help to add a little bit of minor star power to those leagues that need help getting some ratings and players that have name recognition.
I tell you what, I would be more inclined to watch a game if like, oh, you mean this franchise over here has 2 or 3 Vikings practice squad guys on it? Like, yeah, I'll tune in and watch that game and see what they do and see what they look like. That could be fun.
If they just could get the reps, man, because you hear about how they play less and less now. They have less and less time in pads and actually playing football. So every single rep, like that, I was listening to Julian Edelman talk about this. I love Games with Names. I'll tell you right now, one of the greatest sports podcast episodes in the history, and I don't care how stupid I sound for this, but it made me laugh. Kyle, I went to send it to you today. Go listen to his episode with Matt Light. You want to hear about somebody pranking Bill Belichick and getting on his fucking nerves the entire time he was a Patriot? Nothing makes me more happy than hearing about a menace against super serious, never jokes Bill Belichick. Matt Light is a national treasure, and I'll quote something from that episode. He said, you could get rid of all my Super Bowl rings. Those possessions, like monetary possessions, physical possessions, don't mean shit to me. He goes, I will cherish this email between Bill Belichick and I where he was degrading me, verbally assaulting me. I'll cherish that more than anything I ever did in the NFL. And it's the funniest thing I ever heard in my life. But yeah, we'll talk about this. We're going way too long. I agree. Yeah. I wish that they had more reps and stuff, but whatever. Guys, thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe to the channel. I know we are taking a little time in between. I personally need to just take a little time to chill and talk like just slightly less in the off season about it. But guess what? We've had our time, and pretty soon we're going to get back in the swing of things because once training camp rolls around, we're going to have more stuff to talk about. It's a little bit of a dead period, but rookie minicamp kicked off. It was this month, and then soon organized team activities will happen, and we will be ripping and roaring back again with more content to talk about.
I like it.
Everything. I'm really excited about it. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you don't like the Facebook page or whatever, do that too so you can get notified when we go live. Please,
Check
please,
out my
please.
stuff on the Viking Age. Hang out with Kyle West there at something square.
At
Vaguely
Vaguely
Square.
Square.
On the old Blue Sky. I think Mr. Smith is on Instagram, but I think he has a private account, so I don't know if you'll be able to find him.
I'm going low a little bit. I'm working on some stuff now, but I will point to your YouTube and to your Twitch and to your stuff at MN Viking Zombie. Go support Adam on his socials here at MN Viking Zombie. Go support his work. If you like the Vikings, go click on an article, help his numbers go up so he can pay the bills. And we'll see you next time. We'll be back soon.
Yeah, and in the